Anyone know what that is? That's music to my ears. That's another sale on Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. Shopify makes it simple to sell to anyone from anywhere. Whether you're selling shirts or sandals, start selling with Shopify and join the platform simplifying commerce for millions of businesses worldwide. With Shopify, you'll customize your online store to your brand, discover new customers, and build relationships that will keep them coming back. Shopify covers all the sales channels to successfully grow your business, from an in-person POS system to an all-in-one e-commerce platform, even across social media platforms like TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. And thanks to 24/7 support and free on-demand business courses, Shopify is here to help you succeed every step of the way. It's how every minute new sellers around the world make their first sale with Shopify, and you can do it too. I love how Shopify makes it simple for anyone to sell their products anywhere. Whether they're ebooks or earrings, Shopify simplifies starting and running your own successful business. When you're ready to take your idea to the world, do it with Shopify, the commerce platform powering millions of businesses down the street and around the globe. Now it's your turn to try Shopify for free and start selling anywhere. So sign up for a free trial at shopify.com/C-Suite, all lowercase on C-Suite. Go to shopify.com/C-Suite, all lowercase on C-Suite to start selling online today. Shopify.com/C-Suite.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Authentic Achievements, where it's my absolute pleasure to be joined by a friend and old colleague, Phill Robinson. Phill, welcome.
Hi Kim, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well, thank you. How are you?
I'm great today.
Good. I'm really pleased to hear it. And you've had quite a journey, haven't you? And are continuing to have quite a journey. Could you share some of that with us, please?
Oh, crikey, where do you want to start?
Where would you like to start? Because I know some of your story and it's so fascinating. I think it's been such an adventure, hasn't it? From your corporate life, your current life, just the whole thing, really. So wherever you'd like to begin.
I was brought up in Leicester. I had a passion to see the world and get out and about and learn. And so I was the first person in my family to do a degree in computer science. And from there I left to go to California and work for Oracle when they were very small back in the 80s, writing software for a manufacturing application. And I've worked in software ever since. And I worked for a number of American software companies in Europe, subsequently to help them build their European businesses. People like Oracle, first of all, then Sybase, Siebel, and Salesforce.com, most recently where I was Chief Marketing Officer in the noughties, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
And more recently, the last 15 years, I've been running businesses with private equity investors in the UK and also in the Netherlands. So I ran a company called Ira Software, which sells accountancy software here in the UK, and built that up. And then moved to the Netherlands to run a business, a similar sort of business called Exact Software, which is a Dutch business. And then about 18 months ago, I retired. I've had Parkinson's for about 5 years. And so felt it was a good time to, I say retired, I'm still busy, but not work full time and do some of the things that I might have wanted to do in retirement later in life, but do them now because I may not be able to do them later. So but I'm super busy. I've got a number of things I'm doing which are sort of work related, but not full time.
Wow, it was such an amazing journey. And I know having got Parkinson's in my family, so my dad was diagnosed 20 years ago. It's still a very misunderstood illness, isn't it? And I know that's one of the things that you're working on as part of your, I say retirement because I'm sure it keeps you really busy, but with Cure for Parkinson's, that's one of the things you're looking to do, isn't it? One, find a cure, but two, help people better understand this illness.
Yeah, I think when you conjure up an image of Parkinson's, people think of somebody that's very old and probably shaking. And that is one of the symptoms of Parkinson's, but there are 30. It's everything to do with movement in your body. So Parkinson's is caused by a lack of dopamine in your brain. The part of your brain that creates that substance that coordinates movement dies off slowly, and therefore the disease progresses. And that can include your voice, which is movement, your iris in your eye, your eardrum, your stomach, the way you digest food, anything that's either conscious movement, which is mechanical, your arms and legs and limbs, but unconscious movement. So this sort of the autonomic processes of your body. So as a consequence, I struggle with sometimes my voice. I can't speak very well. I struggle with digestion. It's a big issue, being able to digest things. And then things that also do with brain chemistry. So I don't sleep well. I wake up most mornings at 2 a.m. And that's when I'm most productive at work, actually, because I can do it at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I think it's really misunderstood. It's a suite of symptoms, and everybody that's got Parkinson's has got a different combination at different times of their progression. And it's also something that's got a sort of a stigma attached to it. People sort of don't tell their colleagues until they really have to, and they sort of suffer alone and feel like they're going to be prejudiced against professionally if they tell people what they've got, because people think they're useless or not able to do their job. And of course, nothing could be further from the truth. They can't. Of course, they can. So I'm up for trying to help people change the image of the disease. I've got a blog called stirrednotshaking.com, which talks about how you change the image of the disease. And I'm also chairman of the development board for a charity called Cure Parkinson's, which is looking for a cure in the next 5 years.
Wow, amazing! Because it is it's such a changeable illness, isn't it? I know with my dad, he'll have symptoms for a couple of years and then they'll disappear completely, and different ones will come in. He's had periods where he was in a wheelchair, and then periods like now he can walk. So it seems to be a kind of an ever evolving. It's not like you can tick them off the list, is it? Like, oh, I've got these now, that's what I've got, because it changes so rapidly, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, an example would be right now I've got a problem with my knee, which I think is tendonitis. I'm a runner, I go running. There's one way to keep fit. You really need to keep fit and healthy while you've got Parkinson's. And so I couldn't understand why I've got this problem with my knee, and also like a real cramp in the top of my foot. And it turns out when I'm asleep in bed, my leg turns inwards. Right. And so during the day it doesn't, and I realise that now, but because it's twisting inwards with Parkinson's, it's called dystonia, where your muscles contract involuntarily. When I'm awake, I don't have that, so I then don't understand why I keep getting injured when I'm running on my left leg. And the reason I'm injured on my left leg is because it spends 8 hours a day twisted in bed. So it's a great example of something you would never have thought of. And it's just one of many things that comes and goes with Parkinson's. So it's really hard to put your finger on. Have I got these 3 symptoms? Well, you might have now, but maybe 2 months later you might have some other symptoms that are different.
Wow. And I mean, you did go and tell your colleagues, didn't you? I remember you sharing that story with me. I would love it if you would share that again, but also share with us how you approach that. How, that's a really courageous thing to have done, I'm sure, because you, like you say, you worry what people are going to say and what they're going to view of you. So to stand up there and actually share that must have been quite an achievement.
It was scary, for sure. So I had joined Exact in 2017 as CEO. So I was interviewing for the job in that summer with their private equity investor at the time, a company called Apex Partners. And almost the same day that they let the previous CEO go, and then obviously there was no going back for them, I was going to be the CEO. I got this diagnosis of Parkinson's, and I was in the UK. This sort of crisis, which is, should I go to the Netherlands and take my family to the Netherlands and do this job when I've got Parkinson's? And talked to the specialist, and he's like, well, you know what? You're perfectly capable of doing this job for many years to come, so you should do it. And so I took his advice and went and did this job. I didn't tell anybody at the beginning. I felt terrible that I'd taken this job and maybe this was going to constrain my ability to do the work. And I had no idea what was around the corner because it was brand new to me. I'd never had it before, and I didn't know anybody else that had it. So I didn't know whether I was going to degenerate or progress with the disease in 3 months, 6 months, 6 years, 15 years, no idea. And so I sort of started this tentative journey of being in the Netherlands, doing this job, but also finding out what it was like to live with Parkinson's, because I had no idea. And so I got to learn and understand the disease, but it took a while. And during that period of time, which was probably 2 years, I didn't tell anybody that I had it, other than my family. And it felt like going to work every day was living a lie, because you couldn't tell your colleagues what was going on inside your body, and some days you felt good and some days you didn't. So it was awful to keep that to yourself and not tell everybody, not be authentic about, or even be vulnerable to other people in work. And one of the reasons I didn't tell people was I thought it would undermine the valuation of the business at the point which we would sell it, because anybody that's selling a business in private equity to a new owner the new owner wants to know that they've got a management team that they can rely upon for the future. And so I did tell, when we got to a process of selling the business in 2019 to the new investor, which was KKR, I did tell them that I couldn't do this job full-time forever. And at some point in the near future, I'd do it part-time or leave. So I was clear with them, but I didn't tell them why. Immediately the deal was concluded, I told them exactly what happened. And so I sort of came out to them as the investor. And they were super supportive. They could have been more supportive. They were helpful. They were thoughtful. And they were delighted that I was authentic with them and told them exactly what was happening. And so we moved forward together as a team from there. And that gave me confidence to say, well, actually, now what I need to do is tell our 2,000 employees around the world that this is what's going on with me, and that maybe I won't be here doing this forever because of this disease. So I didn't know the best way to tell them. So we used to have a sort of a quarterly all hands meeting and video conference around the world. And I made a little video explaining Parkinson's, what I had. Because I didn't know that whether I could even stand on stage and say these things. I thought I might break down or be really upset or whatever in front of a crowd of people. So I was on stage and I said, look, I've got something to tell you. We're going to show you a video, and then at the end we'll have a drink and you can ask me some questions. So I showed them this video, and at the end there's like this slight pause, and then this massive round of applause for what I'd done, which was, in their eyes, heroic. I thought was the least I could have done. And I think it was a learning point for me. You talk about being authentic and vulnerable. I earlier in my career certainly felt like it was important to be a strong leader, and to be a strong leader, to be stoic and not vulnerable and impregnable and strong. And actually, people couldn't meet up to you. They didn't know who you were. They didn't understand you, and you were unapproachable. And I think telling this story on stage showed me more than ever that being vulnerable and being able to tell your story to your employees is super important, because it allows them to know who you are, connect to you, and share your values. So it was a lesson in more ways than one about being a leader, as much as it's about being a leader, as much as it's about being a CEO and a human being.
Wow. I can't even begin to imagine what must have been going through, all the emotions that you must have been going through, standing up there and like you say, being vulnerable, because we were told, weren't we, as leaders years ago, you can't be vulnerable. Like, whatever happens, don't show any vulnerability.
Yeah.
And yet we're all vulnerable about something, aren't we? So when we're not sharing our vulnerability, we don't create an open space for people to be able to share theirs, and therefore we can't grow as effectively as we could. And yet we often don't find that out, do we, until much later. Then we realise it's about sharing vulnerability without losing your credibility, isn't it? And if we're vulnerable about literally everything, then they're not going to think we lead them. But having some vulnerability, being able to say that actually, we're not made of steel, does allow people to better connect. So it must have been also, I'm just thinking back, you made the move. So not only had you just found out that you'd got Parkinson's, so you had all of that was new, and you were going to a new company, albeit doing a role that you'd done before. You're also moving to a new country with your family. That must have been a lot for you and for them to kind of process and go through at the same time.
I know, I've never done it the easy way.
You never have you?
It was a lot. But when I did it, it was a great experience. It's probably the job I've done in my career that I've enjoyed the most. So if you like ending on a high and doing something you really enjoyed doing, was great for the last 4 years. So yeah, as you say, you talk, certainly, 20 years ago, you talked to be a superhero if you're going to be a CEO. And we're not superheroes. We are all vulnerable. And actually, explaining who you are and bringing your whole self to work, whether you're a CEO or an individual employee, is really important. Leaving part of your personality at the door is not a recipe for success for anybody. So I think it's important that they know that you're vulnerable so they can show their whole self and bring their whole self to work too.
I love that. That is so true, isn't it? Because we want to connect with people, and when there is a lack of authenticity, we waste our time trying to work out what it is that we don't trust, rather than if people just share it, we go, oh, okay, I know what, no, this is Phill, and therefore I can connect with him. So what would you say, I mean, there's so many, I'm sure it'd be difficult to hone it down, but what would you say has been your proudest achievement so far?
Or professionally?
Whatever you're most proud of.
I think I'm proud of what we did at Exact. I think we took a business which was struggling a little bit in some markets, and we refocused the business, set it off in the right direction. And you can talk about, the financial outcome or the revenue or the EBITDA, and it's done great. We were turning over 180 million and 60 of EBITDA, and it's now 400 million revenue business. So it's done really well. But I think more than that, it was about creating the right environment and culture. So I'm much more proud of the softer elements of the business, which I think put it in the right direction, than just the hard, tangible, financial results. Spent a lot of time working on culture and working on making sure people could bring their whole selves to work. So an example was we had a really big office block right on the main motorway. And they used to use the side of the building, the windows, to put a huge frieze, if you like, or a big sticker across 6 stories to communicate a message to the passing cars and travellers. And we used to sponsor Max Verstappen, who everybody knows is a Formula Motor Racing World Champion now. And so his image would be plastered across the building. And we came to Pride Week, and this would have been 2018 maybe. And I'm like, I don't want the Max Verstappen sticker on the window. I want a huge pride flag, which is 6 stories tall. Yeah. And I want to say, everyone's welcome to work here. And it was a statement of intent from me about how we wanted to change the culture and for everybody to be included, no matter what their background or what their preferences were. And I've got a lot of passive resistance. It's like, you really want to do that? I think the council will not allow us to do that. We're not allowed to. It's at the side of the road. We're not allowed to do this because the council's going to make us take it down. I'm like, no, let's put it up. And if the council make us take it down, we'll take it down. So there was sort of this passive, attitude. And I'm like, no, we're doing it. We did it, and we couldn't have better response. It was all plastered all across the front of the newspapers across the Netherlands. It was lots of people on the main roads shouting and screaming and saying what a great job we've done. I think our employees enjoyed it as well. I think we definitely created a more open environment internally for LGBTIQ community, where they were sort of hidden. Nobody knew who was in that group. Yeah. And, we started off with trying to run some workshops after we put this flag on the building, and nobody turned up. So a year later, we continued to work on this. A year later, we bought these badges which said, "I'm an advocate," or "I'm a supporter," with a flag. And basically, by this point, I got 1,000 people wearing these badges in the office. So that people that were in that community knew it was okay to be gay, or bi, or whatever it is, whatever background they had, it was fine. And it fundamentally changed the culture of the company. And we spent a lot more time talking about, equality for women, equality for different people from different ethnic backgrounds. And so I'm more proud of the way we changed the culture than I am about the financial results. I think one helps achieve the other, but if you can't bring your whole self to work, you can't do a great job. And we created an environment where it was okay to come to work and be whoever you wanted to be. And that's probably, I'm more proud of that and the culture we created than the fact we sold the business for, an awful lot of money to a new investor and set the business up for success in the future.
I love it. And it's so true, isn't it? That getting the culture right, getting the environment right for our people, is critical to the real success of an organisation. And we measure the hard things, don't we? And it always makes me smile that we call them soft skills, because if they really were soft, why do people find it so difficult? You know, we say they're soft, don't we? And the amount of leaders that I meet that can't do it, that can't connect with people, that don't consider what's it like to be here, what culture am I creating? Are you able to be your best and to be yourself whilst being your best?
Yeah, I think in previous jobs I learned the difference between management and leadership. So certainly at Iris, in the early days of Iris, hadn't been doing so well. It was sort of flat in terms of growth. I wanted to improve the performance of the business, and I was working 15 hours a day, 6 days a week, and basically it was making a difference. The business was doing better, but I was miserable because I was working so damn hard. Yeah. And I just was driving to work one morning, and I saw this epiphany, which was, what can I do? I'm really stressed. I'm really miserable. I know it's making a difference, but I can't continue to do this. What would happen if I just worked 9 to 5? What would happen? And I was like, I'm not sure. So I tried it for a few weeks. I just work from 9 to 5, maybe 9 to 6, but not 10 hours a day. And guess what happened? Nothing. Changed. Yeah. The business continued to do well. I was forced to trust other people, to delegate to them and let them do their job and do it well, versus trying to do it for them or with them. So I changed from being a manager and trying to manage every detail in the business and working with my backside off, to being able to lead the business by basically letting go, being able to delegate stuff because I had to, because I wasn't prepared to work any longer hours. And actually that made the business much more scalable. So instead of every decision coming through the eye of a needle to one person, it was going to a group of people in the management team. So that was another lesson for me in actually building a business and being a leader, and actually doing it in a way that you could enjoy yourself as a person, as an individual. I wanted to learn how to do this. I wanted to be happy doing what I was doing and enjoy my job, and I was, until that point, pretty miserable. And from there, I really enjoyed Iris as well, because there was a great team around us, and I felt the ability to let go and trust them to do the right things. And I took that lesson of being a leader to exact. And then I think I took it to another level, if you like, in focusing on cultural change and building the right sort of environment for success, as well as working on the hard skills, as you say, of driving revenue and growth and success.
I love it. And I think it's true, isn't it, that you know, once you let go, once you do delegate, not abdicate, but delegate what it is that we're doing and allow people to step into it, you get that opportunity to see them grow as well, don't you? Because they're learning new things and they're getting that belief from you. Because when we ask somebody to do something, we're sharing our belief that they're able to do it. Because if not, we'd do it for them, like you say, because we don't trust that they can get there. So did you see a lot of people really develop as a result of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So at Exact now, there's a guy that had been there for, I think, 25 years, a guy called Paul, who worked in various executive management positions, but somehow had been passed over for the CEO job when I was recruited, because they didn't feel like he was up to it, and I felt he was more than capable of doing the job, actually. So I saw here, I gave him more responsibility, I gave him a bigger role, I worked with him and basically created a succession plan as I was leaving full-time work. So he's now running the business and he's doing a fantastic job. He's grown, he's thriving, and he's doing a super job as CEO of Exact now.
That's amazing. It's lovely, isn't it, when you hear stories like that where people perhaps did get overlooked for whatever reason, but you're able to spot that talent and shine a light on it so that they get their opportunity. So It sounds like you've had so many lessons. What would you say has been the biggest lesson that you've learned so far?
I think to be authentic and vulnerable is really important. I know you talk about a lot about this with other people, but I was always, as a child, my mother was quite stoic. And I think I took that into my adult life, and I was just sort of plow on, just keep going, don't tell anybody how you feel. keep it to yourself. Just go on and deliver something and do something and do it well. And I've learned in later life that actually being vulnerable is as a strength, not a weakness. So that's an important lesson. And I think the other thing that I really like the idea that your life's in 3 stages, and I think I'm in the 3rd one, which is, you go through the first phase of your life, which is you educate yourself or you get educated as an education phase. There's then sort of this accumulate phase, which is not necessarily about accumulating money and wealth, but accumulating experience and knowledge and ability. And the 3rd is to redistribute, which is to take that experience and knowledge that you've got and help other people. And so, I think I can contribute to the software industry today, but I can't do it in the traditional role as a CEO. So we're just about to launch an organisation called Boardwave, which is a not-for-profit, which is building a community of CEOs, chairmen, NEDs, and investors in software, so they can get together and share best practice and mentor one another for the success of the software industry. And so that's something I'm doing at the moment, which is about my 3rd phase of my life, which is redistributing, if you like, and then also working with Parkinsons to find a cure for this terrible disease. So that's the way I'm thinking about life now, and I'm trying to make a difference and contribute, but doing it in a different way, just because of this disease that sometimes gets in my way a bit.
That's amazing. It reminds me, I've always loved a quote. It reminds me of the Pablo Picasso quote, which is, the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is to give it away. Which is kind of, I guess, what you're saying is like you accumulate all of those experiences, you get the knowledge, you get the education, and then actually you give it away. You start to help other people and pass on that experience so that they can end up better as a result of it. And I really like the idea of that community for people in the software industry, because we need to create that space, don't we, where people can collaborate and co-create rather than constantly compete. I don't
know whether being a CEO in another industry is any different, but being a CEO in software for me was a lonely job. You were often sitting on your own trying to make a decision that you couldn't really ask for help from, because if you ask your board, they'd think, why doesn't this guy know this already? You'd feel like sort of exposed, so you'd sort of sit there trying to make your own decisions. It's quite a lonely role, and I felt like it didn't need to be this way, actually. Why couldn't we be more connected as a community of CEOs in software and actually speak to one another and discuss these ideas and issues and come to a better answer together? So that's what Boardwave is about. And we're just about to launch it in the next few weeks. And as I said, it's not for profit. So if it turns out we were able to make more revenue than the cost of running the community, then we'll give it to charity.
I love it. It's a really great idea, and it kind of links back to the mastermind idea, doesn't it, that Napoleon Hill came out with in 1927, and he'd researched really successful people around the world, and he identified that one of the things that was true of all of them is they had a mastermind group, which was 7 or 8 people that they could call on, that probably at the same level as them, or even greater level than them, but when they had an issue they could call up and go, can we just brainstorm this issue, because I just need some advice. Because you're right, whenever you are a CEO, it's very lonely. It's not quiet because everybody's vying for your attention. Everybody wants you to give them an answer, but where do you go for that sounding board? So I think it sounds like an amazing thing. I could literally chat to you all day, but I'm conscious we're getting close to time. So if you had to go back and give your younger self some advice, Phill, what would it be?
Don't take life so seriously.
I love it. That is great advice. We do take it seriously, don't we? And what's next for you? So obviously you've got the new community, you've got Cure Parkinsons, so they're bound to be keeping you busy. But what would you like to say you're going to be looking back and smiling on in another year's time?
How many years' time?
1. Let's go for 1 or 3.
Well, I want to make sure Boardwave launches with great success. We've got a launch event coming in September. In the meantime, we're building a community of CEOs and chairmen and NEDs and their investors. I'd like to see that we make a big contribution to the funding for Cure Parkinsons, because they've been going back 10 years. They've now got globally there are 4 phase 3 trials of drugs that are curative for Parkinson's, we believe are curative for Parkinson's. They've found 2, or they're supporting 2 out of 4. So this charity in the UK has massive influence in the research for a cure. And so I'd like to think that we can help them accelerate the research by giving them more funding or help them to find more funding for them. So they have an international body of neuroscientists that prioritise all the research that's out there every year and pick 5 projects that we believe need funding. And so they do that every year. So although they've got 2 phase 3 trials, there are 43 other substances that need research that they've prioritised that they haven't got to yet. And I want to get them to deliver that research in the next 5 years, not in the next 15. So I'm trying to find ways to raise more capital for curing this disease and accelerating the research so that everybody that's got Parkinson's can find a cure for them.
Amazing. That is amazing. And how can people get in touch and help?
They can get in touch in a number of ways. So on the Parkinson stuff, I've got this blog called stirrednotshaking.com. Go and have a look at that, because it sort of shows you a bit more about the disease, and it's not just about shaking, it's other things as well. I've got a Just Giving page, have a look on there, or just go to cureparkinsons.org.uk, which tells you all about their mission, what they're trying to do and how to do it, and fun things you could do to help raise money to cure this disease.
Fantastic. And for Broadwave, how do people get in touch with that?
Broadwave, the website's live in about 3 or 4 weeks' time. You can email me at phill@phillrobinson.com. The Phill has got 2 L's in both Phil's. I can give you more information if you're a CEO in software or an executive in software, an investor, and we can connect and we can get you to be a member when we start in about a month's time.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I will make sure all of the links to that are in the show notes so that you can get in touch with Phill and help him continue his journey. Phill, it's been an absolute joy, as always. Really looking forward to our next catch-up, and thank you for sharing your story with us. I really appreciate it.
That's a pleasure, Kim. Thanks very much for inviting me.
Pleasure.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.